What's up, y'all? Vice versa here again. Patch 725 is here at last, dropping within the next day or two, depending on your region. As of the recording of this video rundown, Unholy looks like it's in a very good position going into Tomb of Legendaries. Quite a few buffs and excellent set of tier bonuses, especially coming off a rather underwhelming tier 19. Indeed, this is one of the most hopeful Unholy has looked in some time. But as always, clarity is a bit lacking, so I'm here to provide a bit of perspective to help you guys parse out, not the Warcraft logs kind of parse, what this all means. Alright, let's get into it. So on screen you're going to see the list of patch notes for Unholy. We're going to go by Blizzard's official notes for consistency. A link to the full notes should also be right on screen with these, so you can go ahead and pop them open in a new tab if you so desire. So right off the bat, we've got a 5% buff to all of our abilities. This is pretty self-explanatory. And immediately we jump right into a pretty important set of changes. Dark Arbiter, henceforth Darby, now has a duration of 20 seconds. This is quite important as it now gives us considerably more time to empower her. The next change is that Darby's damage has been reduced by 24%. This is a nerf on the surface, but as we now have 33% more time to empower her abilities, in tandem with the next set of changes, means that this was just a necessary balancing to make sure her rate of power change stays on the same curve. Deathcoil's damage has been increased by a whopping 40%. However, in the very next line, the runic power cost has also been increased. These are a pair of balancing changes, increasing the resources we devote to Deathcoil and increasing its impact. Many mistakenly believe that we will be casting significantly less Deathcoils with this change, but as we are overcapping in some situations fairly frequently, this should help us use some of that excess runic power and convert it into real damage. I'm going to jump ahead a bit here and talk about the Sudden Doom change that also comes in this patch. It's a nerf as well, reducing the amount of free Deathcoils we can cast, but it's necessary. But Veiss, we're already weak. Shouldn't we only get straight buffs and no nerfs? You might be thinking. But these balancing changes are necessary. If we only get straight buffs and skyrocket it to the top of the damage meters, that would really only put our necks on the chopping block for nerfs again, and nobody wants that nerf bat swinging our way. Speaking of balancing nerfs, Death Harbinger now offers 2 runes instead of 3. Despite what many believe this is a necessary change, it's not a significant loss of runes, and 3 returned runes synergizes far too well with our T24 piece, which is already bonkers strong. Shadow Infusion got buffed. This talent is insanely powerful now, offering nearly 90% or greater uptime on Dark Transformation if properly utilized. Furthermore, on the nerfs front, the Instructor's 4th lesson, or in Unholy parlance, those fucking bracers, have been nerfed again to a range of 1 to 2 wounds from the previous 1 to 3. I don't particularly agree with this change, nor with Blizzard's offered reasoning for it, but it is what it is. What this does do, however, is raise the relative power of other legendaries, the importance of which I'll be discussing later in this video. You can go there now, time links are in the description, but before you go, I want to talk about a question I've been asked a lot recently. And that question is, what spec should I be playing? If that's between Unholy and Frost, I can't answer that question for you. Decide what you find more fun and go with that. If you care about numbers, there are comparisons out there being made by people who are much better at using and designing sims than I am. However, within Unholy, we've got some serious options. Right now, the standard Darby spec is going to be the strongest option. Other spec variations are behind currently, depending on a variety of factors. If you don't have the Legendary Shoulders or Convergence of Veiss, Darby performs about on par with all of the other spec variations. This is important to note. You can still do competitive damage if you choose another spec that you do not have the right stats for or legendary gear to back up. There is also something to be said for comfort with the execution of a spec. You should play whatever feels most comfortable for you, but if you care especially about doing the best numbers possible, you should go with Darby. If you care about enjoyment, you can try one of the other variations and still perform acceptable damage in all aspects of the game. That said, I want to talk a little about Legendaries now. With the nerfs to the Instructor's 4th lesson, other Legendaries are now more prominent in relative power. Each spec has its own Legendaries that work best, and when referring to the tier list I discussed in the Wowhead guide, you generally want to use the main Legendary for the spec of your choice, and then pair it up with one of the other non-S ranked legends you already have. For Darby, that's going to be the Shoulders and the Bracers. Cold Heart, one of the new Legendaries that comes with 7.2.5, will also be good, so it's something that will take a little bit of time to get. Until then, Braces are a fine option for Darby. Death March is a good replacement if you haven't got the bracers either. The bracers and Kil'jaeden's Burning Wish will still work well with the standard and Castigator specs, offering you a solid increase in damage for both. Modified Necrosis can also use these, but may benefit more from Death March. As for the new Legendaries, they work very well with almost any build. They can be interchanged to match with Shoulders for Darby Spec for different combat types, full single target versus 3+ targets, so there are lots of options. Refer to the tier list for the best choices and mix and match. Most of the legends are very close to one another in value for Unholy, barring those that are required for a given spec. All that said, I want to throw in here that I'm now on Patreon. I love the Unholy spec and the DK community, and I'd love to have more time to research and make guides and videos for you guys, so a little help would go a long way. I might actually be able to find a real editor, rent a recording studio so I can cut out all the goofy background noise, host some awesome giveaways, make merch, stuff like that. And to show you guys I mean it, I'm hosting my very first giveaway right following this video. 2 lucky commenters will be randomly selected to win 6 months of Wowhead Premium. If you enjoy the content, drop me a comment, a like, a subscribe, and hit me up on Patreon. Links are in the description below. For now though, Vice Versa out.